Psycho-Pictography, the new way to use the miracle power of your mind, by Vernon, Chapter 10. Release your full mental powers for greater success. What do you suppose would happen to your world if you mentally saw it as another world? Something would happen, all right, something magically marvellous. You would live in a bright world that turns for your pleasure and enrichment. Let's explore this world together, for as Plato explained, my mind is myself. To take care of myself is to take care of my mind. The man who really understands his mental processes is the man who can use them to attain any worthwhile goal. But the person who fails to explore his potentialities of mental power will needlessly remain as he is. We must start with the idea that we have many exciting things to learn and to understand. With that receptive attitude, we cannot fail. When these ideas were presented at a group discussion, someone asked, "What are some of the things we must understand? Could we discuss practical examples of how right thinking aids our everyday progress?" Here are some of the helpful points brought out. Like an eagle, your mind was created to soar. Do not involve yourself in other people's problems merely to distract your mind from your own. To fail to understand something does not mean that your mind must go on to misunderstand it. There is no outer progress without inner mental change. You are becoming a mental magician when you control not only what you want to do, but also what you don't want to do. We must cease to know so many things that are untrue. Like successfully working a crossword puzzle, mental power reveals itself steadily and gradually. Fully understood, any one of the above ideas could transport you to the mountaintop where everything is clear. How to fly to peaks of mental awareness. Nothing is more certain than that the human mind possesses 10 times the power usually used. Why does the average person fail to express his maximum mental might? The answer is his lack of awareness. A man simply doesn't take time for an exploration that could make these forces consciously known to him. Instead of pausing to study the magic of his mind, he casually assumes that what he now sees is all that there is. That is like thinking that the first edge of dawn is all there is to the sun. Don't make this mistake. We can assist our understanding with an illustration. Suppose you were given a one-man airplane to use in any way you like, but you did not understand the powers of an airplane. You were unaware that it could carry you across the sky, but still wanting to make some use of it, you hitched it to a horse and drove it around. Because of your limited awareness of its use, your actual use was also limited. But after studying the machine for a while, you discover its motor, propeller, and other items of power. So you unhitch the horse and drive the airplane around on the ground with its own power. This is an advanced use, but still far from making the most of its intended purpose. So you study some more, and you discover that the airplane has wings for a practical purpose. You see the possibilities of rising above the earth to soar aloft. With this new knowledge, you go into action. Finally, you fly. By discovering the full capacities of that airplane, it carries you to whatever destinations you desire. A man's mind is like that. The power is there, all right, blocked only by a lack of awareness that it is there. Persistent self-study reveals power that is already there. Your very awareness is your power for full flight. How to get off the mental merry-go-round. Have you ever wished that you could blot out your mind and cease to think about things? Ever wished to jump off the mental merry-go-round that takes you nowhere? People would often give anything to shut off the frantic chasing of their thoughts. This desire to stop thinking proves something. It proves that we recognise the futility of fighting life with the inadequate weapons of habitual, conditioned and shallow thoughts. Thought has its place, but it is really a secondary power. There is something far superior. The fact is, you can and you should stop thinking with your tradition-formed mind. Old, fixed, personalised and biased thinking patterns get you nowhere, as every man proves to himself 12 times a day. What, then, is the replacement for conditioned thinking? Awareness. Here is the supreme secret. It is essential that you see the vast difference between thought and awareness. This is an advanced lesson in unleashing your full mental powers, and because it is, you can advance swiftly with it. What exactly is thought? First, it is our memory in action. If our memory stocks the opinion that life is unfair, we will project this opinion wherever we go and be unhappy. In other words, thought is mere repetition, just as a newspaper headline is repeated with each roll of the press. Also, thought can be utterly mistaken. Our thoughts are based on our conditioning during our early years. If bitter people told us that life is unfair, our impressionable minds accepted that as a fact. But it is not a fact. It is the false self feeling sorry for itself. Thinking is based on acquired viewpoints and attitudes which may not be in line with reality. When we merely think about something, we could be wrong. But when we are aware of something, we are never wrong. For awareness is a revelation of the truth about something. Perhaps this helps you to understand why all your thinking about your problems has never solved them. Thinking goes in a maddening circle, getting you nowhere. Now, thought is both good and necessary for the mechanical processes of life, like building a house or cooking dinner. But because your spiritual self is not mechanical, it must be elevated by an entirely different power. That power is awareness. Don't be afraid to be without an attitude. Let's take an interesting example of the difference between thought and awareness. Suppose that you decide to take a vacation, say at a resort in the heights of the Rocky Mountains. You send away for literature which you read eagerly. And you think about that resort. You wonder what it's really like. You hope it's a fun place and so on. But, of course, you can't do any more than to merely think about it, to repeatedly speculate. And that speculation neither answers your questions nor gives you pleasure. No, you realise that you must actually travel to that higher level. You must explore the place yourself. So you journey to the resort. Now everything is utterly different. You no longer think about the place. You are clearly aware of it as it actually is. You may even see that many of your previous speculations were not in line with the revealed reality. Yes, for the first time, You really know the truth. Thinking has ended, awareness has begun. And because you are now on a higher level, you can really enjoy yourself. Spend some time reflecting upon the difference between thought and awareness. It makes a vast difference in your life. Suppose you work long and hard at your desk in the office. You feel that you deserve a promotion, but when the time comes to fill a vacancy, someone else gets it. You are hurt and angry. You indignantly feel that there is no justice in the world. As a result of your reaction, you suffer. Now let me ask you a question. Who caused you to suffer? Here is where we must be very wise. The situation itself, you must try to see this. The situation itself had no power to hurt you. You injured yourself by your very own thoughts about it. You see, you wanted this promotion very badly. Why? Believe it or not, it wasn't for the money primarily. You wanted to prove something to yourself and to your family. For example, that you were efficient, loyal, worthy, and so on. When this need, which is part of the false self, was thwarted, you felt resentful, grieved. Proving yourself is a needless need. It is the false self with all its demands, fears, egotisms and illusions that tries to prove itself. But you can't prove an illusion. It is like trying to fill a bottomless jar. When you find your true self, you need not try to prove anything. When you discover that you are really a millionaire, need you prove it? When you know your true self, which is content in every situation, you are never upset, promotion or not. You will find abundant enrichment as you remember. You need not work at thinking, at trying to find the right attitude towards something that happens to you. The problem arises because you have an attitude, a needless one. Dare to be without an attitude. Make this experiment. Go about your normal affairs without thinking and planning and choosing quite so frantically. Don't strain for right attitudes. Instead of trying to force the river of events to flow, let the flow carry you forward. Let your thoughts twist and turn as they will, but watch them as they flow. What a dawning! You will do everything just as well as when you work so hard at thinking. In fact, much better. Your business affairs, your health, your social relations, and especially your emotional life will swing upward. Best of all, you will begin to think in a new way. You will be an aware person, and an aware person is happy, natural, at rest. Yes, it takes heroism to let your mind perform in its own natural way. But why not be a hero? Why not leave your mental processes to their own abundant wisdom? One of the first exclamations you will make is a grateful, "What a relief!" How you can break free from weighty worries. I often hear questions like, why do I find it so difficult to break even the smallest habit? Is there really a way to crash through into a new life you tell us about? Is there some sort of unseen resistance that prevents us from helping ourselves? By exploring a few special facts, you can find positive answers to questions like these. I want to supply you with these special facts. They may be the very ones you have been seeking for many years. Once seen and understood, they banish dozens of dusty difficulties, just as a brisk wind clears the air of dust. The following mental picture is designed especially to help you understand certain facts about the human situation. At amusement parks, they have motorboats that glide around a lake or a lagoon with their load of passengers. Each boat has a park employee who serves as captain and guide. Although he stands at the wheel as if steering the boat, he really doesn't. He has no control over the boat's course as it weaves left and right around the lagoon. What, then, controls the boat's direction? A set of rails, out of sight beneath the surface of the water. The boat merely follows. It must follow these underwater rails. Day after day, trip after trip, it follows mechanically along as the rails dictate. This is a good example of how the majority of men and women live. They seem to be gliding happily around the lagoons of life, but they are not really happy, nor are they in control of themselves. For beneath the surface of their lives, they are controlled and enslaved by their mental negative rails. Because they do not understand that this is so, they fail in even the tiniest task. No matter how hard a man may try to control his temper, he fails. Even when a woman doesn't want to be carried along by a jealous mood, she cannot resist it. Because they do not realize what is controlling them, they remain in secret despair. But there is a great truth that every man or woman can realize. There is a way to break free. Past mistakes need not harm your present life. You need not react to any crisis with distress or confusion. You can cease all mechanical daily trips that keep you nervous or helpless or frightened. I know for a fact that any man can be free of all negativities. He can behave in a new way. He can think from a fresh mind. He can have pleasurable days filled with exciting discoveries. The underwater mental rails consist of frozen attitudes, unrealistic conclusions, habitual thoughts, compulsive desires. Now, most people simply do not realise that their attitudes are frozen and unrealistic. They do not see that their ideas about themselves are habitual but not necessarily correct. Instead, they think that their attitudes are the only ones that exist and therefore must be the correct ones. But this is incorrect, destructively incorrect. We must break the false power of these mental rails. Where can we start? With the knowledge that those restricting rails are down there, that they are the cause of our troubles. Most people do not know this. They do not see what is going on beneath the surface of their lives. But you now know it. This knowledge is a powerful tool. To see that we are not presently free is the beginning of eventual freedom. This is really great news. It is cause for good cheer. Especially try to see the harm caused by these negative rails. See that they are the cause of your distress. This comes as a gradual revelation. As it does, you see more clearly how to disengage yourself from them. The boat, when free of its underwater rails, can go anywhere and enjoy anything. Likewise, when you are free of subconscious negativities, you live the fancy-free life. How to move over to a great new life. A useful illustration popped up while I was going through a copy of Daniel Defoe's classic Robinson Crusoe. Shipwrecked on an isolated island, Robinson Crusoe made his camp near the place where he came ashore. He then set about to explore his private kingdom. It wasn't long before he made a discovery that threw him into conflict. He found that he was camped on the wrong side of the island. The other side had a greater abundance of food and comfort. Though seeing this fact clearly, he was reluctant to move. Why? Why not exchange the less for the more, the inferior for the superior? Since anyone can find a richer life, how come so many miss it? There are a number of reasons why people fail to move over to their richer world. Mental idleness is one. Lack of persistence, searching in the wrong places, getting discouraged at the slightest setback, fear of change. Let me give you a reason which people rarely suspect. They fear that fresh ideas will rob them of their habitual ways, of their settled comfort. They are afraid to reach for more for fear of losing what little they have. Here is where courage is needed. We must abandon the old before we can find the new. Does that apply to our emotional habits? Very much so. Suppose a person habitually lives with a certain negative emotion, for instance, depression. This may startle you, but such a person resists the idea of giving up his depression. As painful as it is, he won't give it up. Why? It supplies him with a false sense of identity. That is, he can say, well, at least I know who I am. I am a depressed person. He fears giving up that painful emotion because he fears his loss of identity as a depressed person. Also, strangely enough, some people take great pride in being negative. For instance, a man will boast of his bad temper. Remember the illustration of Robinson Crusoe's reluctance to move to the brighter side of the island. Do you see what you must do? Learn to judge things by results. Here is a good place to answer a question that goes like this. I don't know what set of ideas to follow in order to find myself. In the past, I've studied several religions and philosophies. Now I have a new one. How can I tell whether it has real value? There is one sure way, by results, by actual results. The seeker must be ruthlessly honest with himself about the outcomes of his studies. If genuine freedoms are not appearing, he must courageously face it. No man can find his way out of prison if he insists that he is not imprisoned. Challenge the set of ideas you use. Demand, yes, make an outright demand that they prove themselves by giving you something new, something better, something happier. If the system you use is honest, it will not only welcome your challenge but encourage it. Truthful systems are never afraid of anything because they are not hiding anything. Challenge your ideas. Do this by habitually asking yourself questions like, do I see definite changes in the way I think, feel, act and speak? Am I really a bit happier each week? Is this system a practical aid toward altering my inner self from negative to positive? The supreme test comes when you first suspect that a system is not keeping its promise to you. At this point, you must courageously abandon it, even while unsure of its replacement. If you will daringly set upon uncharted seas, you will find the only safe harbour there is, the truth itself. How to use these ideas. The way you meet a fresh idea is of utmost importance. If you shy away from a new truth because it is difficult to understand or because it is strange, you cannot gain its value. Also, if you assume that you already understand the full significance of a fresh thought, you likewise cut yourself off from its hidden treasure. When you encounter a new idea, perhaps in this book, do not start off by accepting or rejecting it. Do not react automatically to it. You must walk around and over the new territory to see whether it has gold or not. You must not take anyone's word for anything. You must personally prove all offered plans and techniques. You must reason. If it really works, it will prove itself sooner or later. I will give it a chance to reveal its value. That is the intelligent way to separate fact from fiction, truth from falsehood. The process can be likened to selecting a map that you wish to guide you toward a desired destination. Suppose that you want to travel to Ohio. You select a map from the library shelf and examine it. If it covers the state of Ohio, you look at it more closely, you study the details. But if it covers another state, you set it aside. But your first act is to take a clear look at the selected map. You neither accept nor reject it without personal examination. You accept or reject it only when your own intelligence tells you whether or not it serves your need. Once you discover a psychological idea of definite worth to you, use the following plans to increase your benefits. 1. Look for its deeper significance, its greater value. 2. Frequently reflect upon it in your spare moments and as you go about your usual tasks. 3. Bring it up for discussion in your study group, such as a PSYCHO-PICTOGRAPhy meeting outlined in Chapter 15. 4. Write it down on a slip of paper for easy reference. 5. Make it your goal to understand the idea with maximum clarity. 6. Do not hesitate to insert the new idea into the place of an unworkable one. 7. Discuss it with other people who show an interest in its value. 8. Work at using the idea in a practical way in your business or employment, in your home, in human relations. Start taking orders from headquarters and get somewhere. Follow the 8 plans simply and easily. One of man's greatest illusions is that hard work in itself is a virtue. Only right work is virtuous, and right work is easy and effortless. As we get out of our own way, this easy-going progress becomes a cheery reality. We spoke about the need to separate fact from fancy. Nothing can do more for you than to see the difference between the real and the unreal. Whatever is real is beneficial. Whatever is false is harmful. We are on the way to greater mental health and to physical well-being as we discern the difference between the truth about life and what we mistakenly take as truth. A colonel told his officers that their army must take a strongly fortified enemy position. A captain pointed out the problems of the order and asked why it had to be done. "Because," replied the colonel, "it's an order from headquarters." A truthful idea is an order from your inner headquarters, your true self. Although it may originate from a book or a speaker, it must be matched by your consent. When that happens, a magnificent miracle happens to you. How help arrives when you connect with your true self. Historians praise the marvellous system of communication set up by the ancient Roman Empire. They agree that Rome's ability to keep in touch with its far-flung territories gave it solid strength. The communications were achieved by setting up a network of roads and signal stations that connected Rome with its provinces. A need for troops in Egypt was swiftly communicated to Rome and the troops rushed out. A call for engineers from faraway Britain was answered promptly with the necessary manpower. The roads between the well-supplied headquarters and the outer regions were open and ready. Let that form a picture of how your mind can supply your needs wherever the call. See your mind as permanent headquarters which can swiftly send out wisdom, understanding, strength, cheer. This is really more than a picture, it is a fact. What bountiful supplies arrive to the man who maintains clear communications between his inner self and his exterior affairs. Take the understanding of a so-called bothersome event. For instance, a sarcastic remark from someone. One man was asked why he remained unaffected by such a remark. He replied, "Because it makes a difference only if I think it does, and I don't think it does." The daily power of such an intelligent man is clearly described by Dr. Paul Brunton. Thus, living as close to the divine centre as he can, he may still be able to take his appropriate place in the world, no longer as its slave, but as nature's cooperator. Whilst his innermost being dwells in a strange spirituality, he himself will be able to move in the very midst of stress and tumult, not blind to its existence or indifferent to its problems, but nevertheless inwardly poised and untroubled. Therefore he can cope more effectively with these problems. He has found that at that centre, whether of self or the universe, there dwells real safety and sanity. How to make profitable decisions. You are about to receive an entirely new method for making daily decisions. It will abolish strained thinking and worried wandering over the course to take. Every day includes dozens of decisions, ranging from trivial to vital. Why not make profitable decisions every time? It can be done. We start by looking into an enormous fact of human existence. It is possible for you to think with a new mind. This new mind is free of doubt and perplexity. It never makes a wrong decision. Just as a well-kept garden is free of weeds and stones, so is this new mind free of doubts and confusions. It knows what to do. It shows you the difference between a profitable action and a pointless one. It prevents you from doing or saying things that you would rather regret. It keeps you out of trouble. Not only does it tell you what to do, but what not to do. Understand this. Most decisions are made on the basis of desire. You do this or that because you want something out of it. But if this desire is unrealistic or risky to your welfare, you head for grief. But when you think with your new mind, one that is free of illusion and impulsiveness, you don't have self-defeating desires. So you solve the problem of decision by not creating the decision in the first place. I assure you that this is a magical way to live. Take the spending of money. When you think clearly about your real needs, you spend your money wisely. You buy things for practical reasons, not for shallow ego gratification. So, thinking from a clear mind is really a raise in pay. A woman told me about the man in her life, then asked, "Should I marry him or not?" I tried to explain that a decision based in a muddled mind is not only risky but needless. Why not, I advised, put first things first. Clear up your thinking, which you can certainly do, and then you will know exactly what to do. The intelligent person ignores what to do. He concentrates on what to be. We must put first things first. To be clear-minded is first. Obviously, that is the only kind of mind that makes accurate and profitable decisions. The principles of psychopictography guide you toward your new and clear mind. For your total mind power, 1. Have confidence in your ability to develop maximum mental might. 2. You need not ride the pointless mental merry-go-round. 3. The supreme secret for breaking out of the circle of problems is awareness. 4. Work at seeing the vast difference between thought and awareness. It is a heroic adventure of endless rewards. 5. Replace a strained effort at thinking with a quiet awareness of everything that goes on. 6. Break away from frozen attitudes and acquired convictions. It leads to the fancy-free life. 7. Like Robinson Crusoe, you can move over to the superior life. 8. Demand practical results from any system that tells you how to live. 9. Learn to take orders from your inner headquarters, your true self. It supplies accurate guidance. 10. As you learn to think with a new mind, daily decisions become easy and profitable.